Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. This is your host, Constant Taylor, and welcome to the show. Today we have a very special guest, and let me tell you, you guys are in for a treat. You're going to want to listen to this entire program because this gentleman is going to share some very powerful information with you. Our special guest today is Jim Mathis. Jim has been speaking professionally for 10 years. The content that Jim speaks on is that he helps people like you and me who want to reinvent ourselves or our business. Jim is based out of Orlando, Florida. He is speaking both nationally, primarily, and internationally. He is an author of the best-selling book called Reinvention Made Easy, Change Your Strategy, Change Your Results, and it was a bestseller after 20 hours of release. Jim, that's quite a bio, my man. Welcome to the show.
Oh, well, thanks for having me here. It's great to be here today.
Well, we're glad. I know that you're very busy, so we're glad that you could fit us in your schedule. Now, what I'd like to do is kick off the program by asking you to tell us about your business and how you actually help people achieve their results and reinvent themselves.
Well, aside from being an author, I do a lot of speaking, as you said earlier, around the country and internationally on reinvention. I do very interactive talks. What I do is I break it down so that it's easy. My tagline is, first, you need to realize that things aren't going the way that you want them to go. One of my favorite lines is, the economy isn't down, it's different. And you need to be different to move forward, because if you're doing the same old thing you did several years ago, it's not going to produce the results that you want. That's why the subtitle of the book is Change Your Strategy, Change Your Results. So what I do is I work with people who are realizing they're sort of stuck in a rut, or they're doing the same thing they've always done, or doing the same thing is not going to get them different results. And so I do very interactive talks. I do one-on-one coaching. I actually do some group coaching with organizations where the people sit down and they say, okay, here's what we've been doing. Here's the plan. Here's where we want to go. And I sort of show them the light. I don't tell them where they need to go. That'd be too much like mentoring. But I show them the light, let them see the good points and the bad points of what they've been doing, and let them come to a common sense understanding of how to change that and change their direction, what they need to do. I've discovered years and years, because I used to work in churches, that people like change when they're involved in it. They're more open to making a personal change if they have buy-in and involvement in the change. So my goal is not to tell them what to do. My goal is to tell them what they've been doing and what others have done, and let them see that goal and shoot for it.
Okay, excellent. And in terms of actually the first engagement, do you primarily work on one-on-ones, or do you work in large groups, or what's your preferred method of interaction?
Large groups. I like to work with trade associations and large groups who will pay you your fee to stand up in front of them and sort of cast a vision, tell what you do, and provokes them. In fact, I'll tell people I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm a provocational speaker. I'm not there to make them feel good, make them feel warm and fuzzy. I'm there to make them want to change. One thing I'll tell the group is, I can't motivate anyone in this room, but I can provoke the daylights out of you until you want to change. I'll do a little play game here with you for a moment. You can lead a horse to water, but what?
You can't make him drink it.
No, but you can give him salt tablets, and nature will take its course. And my goal is to give the audience salt tablets. I say, I'm the salt tablet, or we have an insect down in the south called the chigger, a little red bug that bites you and itches you like crazy. I'll say, I'm the chigger in your room. I'm your salt tablet. I'm here to make you uncomfortable with the way you've been doing things and make you want to change something. Because still you want to, I can't make you do it. Now, I don't like motivational speaking, because motivational says, yes, you can, yes, you can. Well, you only can if you want to. Mm-hmm. So that's what I do. I get them to provoke the daylights out of people. I really like that, and that resonates with me. A provocational speaker, and I think. Right.
Go ahead.
Let me just go on for a moment. One thing that does is that puts me in front of corporations and companies or individuals who want the individual work or want group work with them. So that sort of brought that back around for you.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And in terms of motivation, they call it inspiration for a reason. Inspire meaning that it actually comes comes from within. So that's a good point that you made up, the difference between what you do and what a motivational speaker does. How?
That's true. In fact, I've had a lot of people wind up perspiring instead of inspiring. And I try to keep them from expiring, if you will. That's a John Maxwell phrase. I didn't invent that.
That's good. Now, what adversity really sticks out in your mind on your journey, and how did you overcome that?
Adversities in my life, I went through several transitions. One of them is, as I said, I used to be a church minister. And I really got tired of church politics. Every Sunday, someone's looking out to fire you, or somebody's on your case about this, that, and the other. There's always the good old boy system and all that stuff. And I really like leading conferences. So I quit cold turkey. Back in April of 2003, I just quit church work cold turkey and went out and started doing this. That was a struggle with a wife and a young daughter who, depending on income, and I'm the sole support. But in the second year, I got a client, and I'm a spiritual person, so I praise the Lord for that. I got a client that paid me $52,000 just to do 2 weeks' work for them.
Wow.
And that was most of the income for that year, but that was awesome. And from then on in, just working my plan, working different groups, doing a lot of marketing. Most people don't understand that a professional speaker, when I ask them, if I'm sitting next to someone on an airplane like I was last week on the way to Seattle, I'll say, what do you think a professional speaker does most of their time? Sorry, there's background noise. What do you think a speaker does most of their time? And they said, work on your speech. I said, no, if you don't already have your speech done, you're doomed. I said, you spend most of your time marketing because you can have the greatest message in the world, but if no one knows it, it doesn't help. The only way you've heard of Tony Robbins or anybody else who's a great speaker is because they market it. Zig Ziglar, he markets it well, or marketed it well. Past tense.
Now let's talk about your latest book and the strategies that this book provides to the listeners.
Well, the book basically covers is a new world of work and a new world of an economy out there. I wrote it, of course, several years into what they're now calling the Great Recession. And one of my statements in the book that I start out with is the recession will never end. Every recession has left some lasting impact on culture and business and society and our way of life in some major way. And I tell a story to audiences about the first time I ever filled a car up with gasoline in the early 1970s and what that experience was like. Having someone, you're driving over the little air hose here and it didn't go off. The guy runs up to the car. Will it be, sir? You roll your window down. In fact, I'll make a joke out of it. How many of you remember rolling your window down? And he came up and he gassed up the car for me and he serviced it, looked under the hood, all the stuff I haven't done with my car this afternoon. And I said, 2 days later, we had an international incident called the Arab Oil Embargo. Apparently, back in the early 1970s, by the way, our country didn't seem to be getting along with Middle Eastern nations as well as we do today. So it changed the way we gassed our cars up. It changed the way we serviced our cars. Because shortly thereafter, gas prices shot up. It changed how much we paid for gas. It changed how you get it. The oil changed and everything you do with it. Convenience stores got to be more prominent, and the full-service station went out of sight completely. You had to learn to pump your own gas. And I'll pause and I'll say, that recession never ended. And that's what I say in the book. That recession never ended. That recession is still going on today because of the way you have to do your car. You'll never have that experience in your life again the way that I did in the early 70s. The recession that was in the early 2000, 2001 changed the way that you travel for the rest of your lives. Coupled with the events of 9/11, there'll never be a day when you go through TSA without having to take your shoes off, unless you're, extra pre-security checked, and you still have to get scanned. There'll never be a day when you check into a hotel without having to show an ID. The most recent recession that we're still in right now, I don't know, I've got a newspaper from USA Today dated 2009 that says the recession is nearing the end in sight, and President Obama sees signs of recovery around the corner, and it's going to end any week now. And I'll read it, the audience, then I'll read the date, and they'll laugh their heads off. This most recent recession has changed the way you buy a car, the way you buy a house, the kind of car you're going to buy. It's changed the way that you travel. It's changed the way that you live day to day because of so many things that have been involved in this. And I'll say the economy and down, it's different. Everything's different. You cannot go forward being the way you used to be because it's never going to come back the way it was. This recession will never end, and this recession will leave some lasting impact. And once you come to grips with that, you'll change the way you do business, the way you do customer interaction, the way you do leadership and management, the way you do sales, the way you do your own personal business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have not had the opportunity to read the book yet, but I am assuming that the first step in reinvention that is made easy is realization.
It is. It's sort of like they say to people who are in Alcoholics Anonymous, the number one thing is realize you've got a problem.
Right.
And a lot of people are going on like they don't have a problem. I've worked in churches for years where there's an old story. I think I heard Joel Osteen tell this. An old story about the young bride who cuts off the end of the roast before she makes the pot roast for her husband. He can't figure out why. And she said, well, it tastes better. My mother taught me to do it that way. So the next time she does, he said, ask your mother, because I've never seen this before. She asked her mother, and mother says, well, I've always been told it tastes better. Besides, that's why my mother taught me to do it. They asked the grandmother. She said, well, I just think it tastes better, and that's the way my mother taught me to do it. So finally, one day they're in a nursing home, and they see Nana, and they ask her, why did you cut the insult of the roast? She said, well, honey, my oven was only so big, and that big roast wouldn't fit in it. And they've been doing this now for 4 generations. And believe me, having worked in the churches, I understand this. They've been doing this for 4 generations. They have no idea why. I think there's some industries, to be honest with you. I think there's industries. I think there's companies, but I know there are, who are doing things because that's the way we've always done it in this industry, or that's the way you do it in this business. And there's other companies that said, no, we're going to do it different. Starbucks said, we're going to sell blended coffee.
Right.
And we can charge more for it. Barnes & Noble said, we'll sell more than just books.
Yeah.
The Domino's and the Papa John said, we'll deliver pizza fast. Who cares how good it is?
Yeah. It's interesting that the company, reinvention is another word I use for putting yourself out of business, out of your current business. And the most successful companies that I find are willing to put themselves out of business. And the biggest example that I can think of is Apple had the iPod. At the time, the iPod was the biggest thing in the world. And then they came out with the iPhone, which was going to totally cannibalize the sales of that. Not many companies have been willing to do that.
And then they made the iPad, which they introduced 6 months into the recession. And let me just ask you this question. What do they do with the iPhone and iPad every year? What have they done with each of those devices every year?
They have upgraded them.
They have. They're just coming out with the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus or whatever it is right now. And when they do, you will notice, you'll see worldwide headlines. People will line up around the block in Beijing, in New York, in London, in Paris, Dubai, all over the world, because they want to get one right now, because if they don't buy it right now, the price will drop.
That's right.
So we are convinced we have to have it now. It's presenting a value that people want rather than the same old, same old. One of my favorite phrases is, if you have to educate people in how to do business your way, they're not the ones who need an education.
Absolutely. Excellent point. Excellent point. Now, after we get through the realization stage in the reinvention made easy, what is the next step in the process? So you realize that you need to make the change. What's the next step?
Get close to the people who you service best or who you work with the best. I call it your frequent loyal customers, not just loyal. Loyalty doesn't mean squat to me. Frequency does. Frequent customers are the one that pay money for me. Get close to those people. Ask them questions. Say, number one, what do you like about us? What rocks your world? What do you like about what we do or what I do? And write that down. And number two, what do you wish I was doing that I'm not doing? Or what do you wish I was speaking on that I'm not speaking on? Or what service or product does our company offer that it's not offering that you wish we did? And you'd be surprised what people want, and that's going to be your frequent, loyal customer base. If 60% of the people, once you start giving away free Wi-Fi in your lobby, do it. If 60% of the people or 80% of the people say, I like your bank, I like your financial situation, your credit union, or your financial advisor's office, except it's nowhere near me. And if 80% of your people live somewhere else, convenience is all about where your customers are, not just in location. Convenience is where they are, not where you want them to be or where you think they are. A lot of us are working in a business where we think we know what we want to do. And we think that we know what we're selling, and we're not. A lot of times people, the car dealership I'm at today with my car being serviced, they give you a very good service and they don't rip you off. And most people, and they have a very nice, clean waiting room. It's gorgeous, and you know, you have control of the television. It's not magazines the mechanics like to read. It's magazines the customers like to read, because we think we're in. You know, not all auto dealers are the same way, and not all of them attract people. Just to give you an example. So what you do is step 2 is to get closer to the people who already like you. Interview them, ask them questions, spend time with them, find out why they like you, and then find out what they wish you were doing for them, and they will pay money for it. So they've already told you that's what they want. Excellent.
Now, for the last 60 seconds of the segment, and we've got to unfortunately come to a close, what information would you like to leave the listeners with?
I want you to feel uncomfortable. As you're listening to this today, I want you to feel uncomfortable with what you do. I want you to sit there and go, what am I doing that's just really stupid? What am I doing that is not attracting people, but I think it is? What's your dinosaur? What's dead? What's extinct? You just never had the guts to bury it before. And start reviewing that and start asking questions. Ask people, well, why do we do this? Why are we continuing to cut the ends off the roast? Well, why are we continuing to sell pizza when people want it delivered faster and they don't care how good it is? Number one question to go home and ask yourself for this interview. When your phone rings and it's your customers, your potential customers calling you, what's the number one thing they're asking for? Not what, in other words, it might be something that isn't exactly what you think you were in business to do, but it's what they think you're there to do. When your phone rings, what are they asking you to do? And I would explore that, and I would exploit the daylights out of it.
Excellent. Man, this has been extremely powerful information. How can the people, the listeners, learn more about what you do and get in contact with you if they need to do that?
Well, I have a newsletter I send out once a month on email. It's a free email, professional development, and I write articles on the different topics I present on. You're welcome to read it. You can share it. You can even reprint an article whenever you want to. Permission's already granted at the bottom of each article. If they will send an email to subscribe at Jim Mathis, JimMathis.com, I'll make sure they get next month's issue when it comes out.
And the website
is JimMathis.com, www.JimMathis.com. I have about 5 websites. All point to the same place, but Jim Mathis will do it.
Okay, Jim, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing that very powerful information that you shared with our listeners.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, and you have a great, uncomfortable day.
You too.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.